Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope you are doing well. This is Sarah Thomas. If you are new here, then hi my lovelies. I hope you have checked out a couple of other videos, you've liked and subscribed. This is a very different vlog and it's something to do with travel. Right now this lockdown period seems like the end of the world. Quite frankly, it seems like we don't know when it's going to end. The cases are only rising. But all that negativity aside, I have been spending the lockdown doing things that I love doing, and one of them is planning my next travels. So I've constantly have these bucket list countries that I definitely want to visit and certain adventures I definitely want to go on. And I don't care if it seems like it's all grim right now, because when I'm planning these holidays, it gives me this ray of hope that after all of this is over, I'm just going to go on an adventure. And whether it happens or not, or whether the countries are closed until 2021, 2022, I don't know. But something like this keeps you alive, gives you that motivation. And I know a lot of people derive their happiness from planning holidays, from going on holidays, going to different countries, seeing different cultures, seeing different people. Going and seeing the world is what life is all about, according to me. And if you are this travelholic who's imprisoned within closed doors right now, then fear not, we can figure this out together. Today's vlog is going to be about a very special place, one that has beaches and forests, and one that makes you feel so complete, like you're just with nature. And it's also one of the favorite countries I've been to. This is none other than Bali. This is an entire plan for you from when to start to finish, and it's divided into segments where I'm going to talk about the different things you need to keep in mind. So if this is your first international travel, then this is going to give you a lot of insight. And if this is the first time you're going to Indonesia, you're going to Bali, then make sure to stay tuned, because I'm going to give you a load of information that I didn't receive when I was planning my trip to Bali. Right from your ticket booking to how you can budget plan, all of those good things. So stay tuned and don't forget to click that like button and subscribe right now if you haven't. Okay, first things first. To go any place, you need to do the first most important thing. And what is that? Book your tickets. When you are booking tickets to Bali, you will see that from your home country to your destination, what the price is. And that's what everybody does. And we're all secretly a sucker for deals. So what I'd say is, don't book your tickets 1 year in advance or 6 months in advance. Book your tickets 3 to 4 months in advance if you're booking from India, and you will get a good deal. What you can do is go on Skyscanner and check the best prices available. Now, you might get some steal deals, and it might seem like the best thing ever, like it seemed to me, but there are a couple of things you will miss out, so make sure to check that. First thing, how much check-in baggage do you get? Most often of a very cheap flight would have 0 check-in baggage. So that means that you cannot carry as much as you want. You'll have a 7 kg cabin baggage allowed, but there is no check-in baggage. Now when you get to the airport, if you miss this great important little detail, you will end up shelling a lot more money. Second thing is, check your layover times. It will so happen that your layover will be 15 hours, 16 hours. Now this could be a boon or a bane. It's how you look at it. Now if your layover is 16, 17 hours and you are in a layover in Thailand, say, you will need to check that if it's possible, you can do a short trip there. You can check their embassy and see if you will get like a transit visa, and you can travel with it within a short duration. What are the things you can see? Now that's a risk you need to take. There are a lot of people that do it, and I've also thought about it. I've never done it because I've not had that long a layover. But if you do have 15-16 hours, then go ahead and check that country out. It's just another place you'll get to see. A couple of things to bear in mind. Don't open multiple tabs and constantly keep checking. So a friend of mine who works in one of these portals had told me that when you do that, there is always a price rise and you will not get good deals. The next thing is learn about your airports. Now the Bangalore International Airport has a smoking zone, but the Thailand airport does not have a smoking zone. So if you have a 15-16 hour layover and there is no smoking zone, then you will go crazy if you're an addict. Okay, so I would suggest that you just get a brief understanding of what the airport allows and does not allow. The best travel to Bali is between April to August. Now September is slightly dying, the dry season is slightly getting over. This is the season that sees the best weather. It sees amazing activities happening, like you can go snorkeling, diving and hiking, all those good things you can do. Reason being, the weather permits it. Now everything is expensive at this time. Bali is crowded in this time. It depends on what you're looking for. If that is something that you like, then please go ahead and book your tickets for that. Also, the tickets will be expensive. Now the wet season is a slightly dull season. It has lesser tourists and it doesn't allow for all these activities because the weather is unpredictable and so is the ocean's tides. Now at this time things are a little more cheaper. This wet season is between October to March end, almost flowing into April. So you can decide when you want to go and what deals you want depending on this information. The next thing to consider now that you booked your tickets is your visa. For Indian citizens, we are visa exempt. We don't have to apply for a visa per se if we are in the country for 30 days alone. But there are a couple of documents you need to have in place. The first thing being, you need to show them proof that you have $100 per day to stay in their country, which is around 7,000 change in our money. The second thing is you need to have your to and fro tickets, which is a proof that you will be staying within 30 days and you will be leaving the country. The third thing that you need to keep in mind is that you need to have stays. All your lodging and boarding tickets and bookings need to be in place. I'd suggest you book through booking.com. Booking.com has certain places that allow you to pay on arrival. So that's something you can make use of. Now obviously there is Airbnb, there are so many trusted sites. I'm just talking for the people who don't want to pay in advance. Okay, so now that visa is out of the way, the third thing we're going to talk about is packing, guys. Packing. Don't pack like shitload of stuff that you're going to be taking and going there. It's not required. If you have like 10 kg worth of baggage, you're going to come back with 40 kg worth of baggage because that's how much you're going to buy there. So I'll tell you a couple of things. Depending on which season you're traveling in, if it's a dry season, carry flip-flops, carry very, very airy cotton clothes that you can just, nicely twist and just throw it inside your bag so that it doesn't take much space. And don't forget to carry sunscreen, because I will insert a picture here. I was this girl who said, oh, sunscreen causes cancer, I don't use sunscreen, all of that bullshit. I didn't even carry it. I went there and this area was so badly sunburnt, it was burning. And sadly this happened because I was sitting in a ferry and I was sitting on the top deck and only this part was exposed to the sun. This was covered by my hair. So this part alone just looked, I can't even go there. It took me 4 months after I came back for it to go back to normal. So forget all those things and just carry sunscreen. But I went there, bought sunscreen and instantly applied, but damage was already done. Okay, so don't forget to carry sunscreen. Carry an umbrella if need be. Carry a little backpack with you. You will be carrying water in it. Now for Indians who have not traveled abroad, this is also some information that I know majority of you know, but water is not free anywhere. You don't expect to go to a hotel and a jug of water being placed in front of you. That's not going to happen. So better just carry a backpack so you can put your water in there and you can put everything in there. Now it so happened that I was on one island and I didn't know I'd go hiking. But when I got there, I suddenly got adventures and I'm like, yes, I'm going to climb today. I started climbing with pump shoes and everyone there was so ready. They were all in their, clothing and your hiking gear and whatever. I was not. And then when I got there, I realized I hadn't carried water and I requested water from somebody and I got the looks. The looks were, why aren't you carrying water? What's wrong with you? Make sure to carry a small backpack that will house a couple of things. Now in terms of what else to pack, when you go there, your plug point is very different. I'll insert a picture of that. So that plug point is what is available. So you'll have to carry a converter. When you get there, you can buy it. So this will have to be in your bag. The next thing you need to carry is a power bank. There are such beautiful, breathtaking scenery that you'll come across that your phone's always going to be out. Also another thing, the pictures you're seeing right now are not vlogs, they are just random pictures we've taken. I didn't have an intention to create a vlog at that time, I just went there for a holiday. But now that I'm doing this, please bear with the low quality and the shakiness and all of that. It just makes it authentic, I think. So this is just my authentic travel experience. Yeah, coming back, also carry some medicines if you want to, because medicines are easily available, but it's better that if you have a certain company that of medicines that you always use, or if you have something that's suggested to you by a doctor, just carry that with you. I'm constantly looking down because I have all of this nicely like organized for you guys so that I don't miss anything. So that is packing, guys. 3 important things are done. You've booked your tickets, you're ready for your visa with all the documents, and you've also packed. What else? One very important factor without which you can't do this trip: money. So what you need to do right now is understand exchange. Now, if you're a person like me, you'll constantly check exchange rates for 1 week and suddenly realize, oh shit, today's the worst day, let's just exchange it today. But don't be me. What you need to do is check exchange rates for a week, and maybe 1 week before you travel, you can exchange your money. Now, do not fall for the trick of exchanging from rupee to rupiah. Certain money exchange places will give you that option, but I'd suggest not to do it. What you do is convert your money to US dollars. So if you have a certain amount, like your budget is 50,000, 80,000, 1 lakh, whatever it is, convert it to US dollars, take it to Bali and exchange it there. Also, while budgeting, make sure to add this on: when you convert your money to dollars, you lose some money. It's inevitable. When you convert your money from dollar to rupiah, you lose some money. It's inevitable. Now, every time you do this conversion, you will keep losing money. In India, there are 2 options you'll get. One is you walk into the money exchange spaces and just get your money exchanged. And the second thing you can do is you can do it through Thomas Cook and all these nice places online. Now, if online is your deal, then you do it online. When you reach the airport at Denpasar in Bali, couple of things you need to keep in mind. First thing, do not exchange money within the airport. Do not be that wise one who takes out like some $1,000 and just exchanges it in the airport. Don't do that. You get very shitty exchange rates in the airport around the world. I have seen this. Do not do that. So what you can do is that if you are in need of money, obviously for your taxi or something, come out of Denpasar airport, walk ahead a little bit. On the left hand side, you will find this place where you will get better rates. And when I say better, it will look like some 2-fold better. You go and you exchange little money there. Like exchange how much ever is required for your taxi. Like keep like some $10 or something. Exchange that. Now once that is done, then you can like book your taxi or whatever and travel. Second thing to do not buy your SIM cards at the airport. It seems like amazing deals, but you've not seen any deals to compare it to. Use the airport's free Wi-Fi to get your work done while in the premises. Then once you get into the taxi driver is going to be your Google. Literally. Okay, so what you're going to do next is that do not buy your SIM card, exchange your $10. Now with regard to taxi, there are 2 ways of going about it. Once you get there, if you're the kind of person who says, I will book my taxi there, then well and good. There is you will find a lot of taxi drivers who will come and hound you, will feel like home. The second thing is that if you want to travel by bus, there are kiosks there in the airport. They'll explain to you where you want to get to, how to get to that place, which bus to take. That's also pretty smooth. If you don't want all this hassle, you just want to go there, get picked up, whatever, you can just talk to your hotel where you booked and they will send a taxi to you and they'll negotiate the price way in advance. It might not be a good price, but you're just entering the country, so you don't want the hassle at that point to negotiate. You might just get scammed for much more if you are in the airport and some taxi drivers come and approach you. So it's all about what you want. Now, the third thing to keep in mind is once you've traveled, if you are a person who wants to travel in a taxi throughout, you can get a nice deal from your taxi driver only. They'll all have like different drivers that they're connected to and they'll put you in touch with. The second thing you can do is travel by bikes. Guys, there's nothing like using a moped and traveling in Bali. It's amazing. Like you are in the forest, you are in wherever, you can go wherever you want. Your itinerary is just so vast when you're traveling on your own. I'm sure you'll agree. So go there and you can rent a bike. An international driving license is mandatory, but you can just pass off with an Indian license. So if you have an Indian driving license, you go there and when you go to these rental shops, they'll just take a picture of it. Do not, at any circumstance, leave your passport or your license or any sort of documentation with them. And mostly in Bali, this does not happen. They do not take your documents. You don't need an IDP, but then what you can do is that if you are finding it difficult to get one, like we didn't have one. We just went there with an Indian license, just took pictures of our passport, whatever, we took the bikes and we left. And it's extremely cheap. The next thing to consider is your spends. When I say spends, what I mean is, a lot of times people from India go to Bali with the idea that it's cheap. It might seem cheap, it is not. Now, obviously, Bali offers a range of things to different budgets. So if you are a backpacker who just wants to go chill and come back, it's definitely going to be cheap. But what is cheap is very subjective. Now, if you want to do all the nice things like diving, canoeing, snorkeling, all these things, it is expensive. Now, 1 rupee is some 200 change rupaya, and you will be so thrilled and ecstatic at this point. But do not be that, because 1 rupee is 200 rupaya, but one meal will be some 5 lakh rupaya. Okay, that is, do the math guys. And when you go to Bali, you will see that all numbers are 250, 500. It's not 500, it's 500,000. Just trying to tell you that Bali is not cheap. Beer is cheap. In comparison to Indian standards, beer is cheap. So the couple of things that are cheap. But when you go there and you want to enter a club or a pub and have like a nice party, you will spend as much as you would in India. So keep that in mind always. Now, a couple of things that are cheap and you should like use it. 1, bikes per day rental is cheap. You would be renting a bike anywhere between 250 to 750 rupees, depends on how much you negotiate and how wonderful the bike is as well. So you can choose models are there. That's the first thing. Second, petrol. At this point, I think any country's petrol is cheaper. I might be wrong, but guys, yeah, petrol is cheap. Food is cheap. Food, you can eat like on the street, and you can eat like wonderful food anywhere. The food is amazing. The things you can like indulge in. You can spend 4-5 hours just in their marketplaces eating street food. It's beautiful. I love it. And the other thing that's cheap is home decor. So if you are into home decor, you will find such lovely things. I'm telling you, like I got this fish trough. Okay, you can't see it. Guys, this is a fish trough. Okay, like a tiny one, but it weighed some 40 kgs. And believe it or not, through the airport, I got it and came. A lot of places, what they do is they allow you to pack the home decor items and just ship it to yourselves. And if you are buying like a dining table, sofa set, all of that, all these boho chic items, then definitely ship it. But I was not that person who could trust that shipping process, because I don't want to spend that money, come back here and call them and say, where's my sofa? I didn't get it. And then this guy doesn't pick up my calls. It just seemed safer and more sane for me to get it. Now it seems totally insane, but that time it seemed sane. Villas too are super affordable. You can book really amazing stays with your own private infinity pool or your own private pool, and you will get like huge villas. They can accommodate easily 8 to 9 people. And if you are going as a group, you can split this and it would be close to nothing. Please go and experience the exotic villas available in Bali. That is one of the major attracting feature in this place, and that is why a lot of people flock to Bali. When in Bali, it might seem like a 15-day vacation is more than enough, but trust me, it's not enough. What I would suggest is don't cram your holiday. Keep it as leisurely as possible, because Bali is a place that you need to take in and enjoy. Of course, when I look back, I do think my holiday was very crammed in the sense that we were island hopping so quickly that it was just a very, very fast holiday. I didn't know how 15 days just flew. But then that's the kind of holidays I like, and if I get a chance to go back, I'd not undo it, I'd leave it as is. But if I get a chance to go again, then I'm definitely going to plan it like a 30-day holiday. But if you are planning 15 days, stick to one island or 2 islands max. So Bali is divided into like 5: north, south, east, west, and central Bali. Central Bali is extremely beautiful. It's very foresty. It's the places like Ubud, all the rice terraces you've seen and all of that is in central Bali. South Bali is very party-like. Like you get to enjoy and go and do all the things you wanted to do. It has the most beautiful looking pubs and bars that you can go to. North Bali is where you can scuba, snorkel and go to waterfalls and all of that. East Bali is where you get to see the caves, the temples, and West Bali is you get Canggu and Jambaran, where in my experience West Bali has slightly lesser tourists in comparison to South Bali. So you decide what you want to see, how you want to see it, and chalk your itinerary out so that you know where you want to go and how you want to travel. The next thing to consider is picturesque places. Now picturesque places doesn't mean all the beautiful sceneries you see. It's more of the Instagrammable spots. Please try and understand how much time it takes to take those pictures, because I had gone to Pura Lempuyang and it took us 4 hours to get the pictures because there were long queues and we had to stand in them, and we could take the pictures in like less than a minute. We literally had to change like 5 positions really quickly and take the pictures. So you need to understand how many things you can cram up on that one day. So if you're going to go to the Instagrammable places, don't plan some 5-10 different places there. The second thing to note is that there will be long queues nearly everywhere in Bali if these places are famous on Instagram. Another place we'd been to was Tirtha Ganga, where you see these beautiful pictures of fishes coming to eat. Guys, those fishes are eating so much of food that they will not come to you. Some 50 people are throwing food at them. They're not going to come to you. They're eating since morning, guys. So, when I threw food, no fishes were coming. I'm like, bro, just come, like, why aren't you coming? No one's even interested. The fishes are like, I have seen it all. Like, I've eaten this enough. I don't want to. So, in my pictures, hardly any fishes are there. If you go really early, I'm sure the fishes are hungry. First thing. And the second thing is, when you get there will be nobody. There might be a few people, but there will be nobody. And crowds accumulate in minutes. Like, we got there was nobody, and I thought, okay, I'll take this picture later. Let me just view this place. I came back and I'm standing just waiting in line. And this happened everywhere. So what I did was, through our journey, we minimized the number of temples we were going to and maximized the number of things we like doing, places we like seeing, scenic places more than holy places. Now while packing, also remember to carry a sarong with you, or buy a sarong there, one sarong, because when you go to these temples, you are expected to cover your knees and your ankles. I think they'll give you a sarong there. If you have a sarong, you can just carry it in your backpack and tie it off when you're going to these temples, and remove it when you're done. When you travel the length and breadth of Bali, it will so happen that you'll purchase a lot of souvenirs. One thing I would suggest you to do is do not pick up any souvenirs at the first leg of your journey. That is, if you're traveling to 4 different places, do not pick it up at the first place. Always pick up your souvenirs at the last place. Reason being that carrying them, even if they are lighter from one place to another, will destroy them. If you're traveling in a taxi, it's far more convenient. But if you're island hopping, then you will have to take this from one island to another, and I'll get there in the next point. Always negotiate. You will get good prices. And when I went to this one shop, this lady told me a price, and I said, no, it's very expensive. And she told me, like very calm, beautifully, don't worry, this is not real price, you negotiate. She opened it up for me, and I brought it down to half price literally. Anything and everything, I've got it there. Home decor, I tried to get rugs, I've tried to get baskets, dream catchers, every single thing. It's beautiful. So if your first leg is Ubud, which I don't recommend you doing first, because Ubud has the cheapest things, and Ubud is also the cultural center of Bali, so the kind of stuff you'll find there is so unique. I would suggest go to Ubud last, reason being that you can pick up your stuff and directly head to the airport. Also depends on what kind of a shopper you are. If you're a very light shopper who says, okay fine, I'm not going to carry anything heavier than this, I'll put it in my suitcase, then it's fine. But if you're the kind of shopper who's going to pick up some 1,000 different things because you don't know when you're going to come back there, you're creating memories, you want things for the house, then please go to Ubud last. Now that that's out of the way, I'm going to come to the most important thing, that is island hopping. You will definitely island hop. Now a couple of things that were not there in other vlogs I was going through is the timing. Keep note of the timing. Now when you just go to Google and check, it'll say the ferry journey is 1 hour from Bali to Nusa Penida, for example. Please take into consideration a couple of more things. From wherever you're staying, you have to travel to the Sanur Jetty. All the boats arrive at Sanur Jetty, and from there they take you to different islands. So if you are staying in Ubud to Sanur, calculate the distance and the time. That is one thing. Once you get there, When you start to go and book your tickets, now this had happened to us. We went a little late and all the booking counters told us there's no more boats to Nusa Penida. We were going to go to Nusa Penida. One more thing, if you want another vlog on Nusa Penida and all the details there, we did not do a day trip in Nusa Penida. We stayed back to take in all that Nusa Penida offers. I'll be more than happy to do so. Write in the comments below. And if you still haven't, please click that like button. Coming back. So when you get to Sano Jetty, there are so many booking counters. You can go to these booking counters and you can book. Now we missed the boat and they told us no other boats are coming. But thankfully our driver was there. Our driver came and spoke to the booking counter guy and immediately he said, okay, we'll fit you in. And over there was a fixed price for all the boats. But guys, even if it's a fixed price, you can negotiate. It came to me as new information because my driver negotiated and got me a price. And then I realized you can negotiate anywhere and everywhere in Bali. So then he cut the cost and he gave it to me, and post that every island I hopped I negotiated. We waited half an hour for the ferry to come and we had taken a speedboat. So there are two ways, one is speedboat, one is ferry. Half an hour later the speedboat arrives. So count that time in, there's a waiting period. Once the speedboat came, this is how the journey took place. So the speedboat stopped somewhere ahead in the water. Okay, we had to walk with all our luggage, and mind you, I'm carrying luggage that's so much because I shopped in the first leg of my journey. And you have to walk into the water. Be sure to carry flip-flops or aqua shoes. And it's not like you're knee deep in water, guys. You are waist deep in water. I go in carrying our luggages and we are waiting. They're not taking us on the boat. Okay, it was the most beautiful experience I've had. And I'm carrying luggage on my head. People's backpacks and all have got wet. Okay, then they come and those with heavy luggages, they take the luggages first. Post that, you have to climb onto this boat. So you're this much in and not everyone gets to climb. So they take you in batches. So all of us will go into the water in hopes that we get onto the speedboat. But they take people in batches, like 10 people, 20 people. I happen to be the last batch of people to get in. And I'm telling you, like, as much as it sounds like some tale of agony, it was not. It was beautiful. In fact, I'm recollecting it and I can't help but smile. It was amazing. A lot of things got wet and all, and if you're carrying camera gear, guys, do something about put the camera gear on your head. Or you wait outside like the wise ones, and in the end they'll take you. Then I got onto the boat like dripping wet. So wear appropriate clothing and footwear when you're going island to island. And be prepared for some things to get wet. And be careful with your gear. If you're traveling to Gili, for example, then what happens is that the boat does not go to the island directly, depending on where you're starting off, either at Sano Jetty or another island. The boat takes you to another port. There, your tour operators will take you to their office, and there it's going to be super crowded. A lot of people are just going to be standing, waiting for their turn, and a number is going to be given to you. That number is the number of the boat that you need to get on. Then you have to go, wait at the port, and hopefully in the next half an hour or 1 hour the boat will come, and then there is the process of everybody going to different places, just figuring their boat and then entering that boat, post which you will get onto the island. Once you are on the island, again you need to arrange for transportation, either offered by your hotel or you need to figure out transportation there. So taking all this into consideration, you'll easily spend 3 to 4 hours depending on which island you want to go to while you're island hopping. Apart from that, you're good to go and you have all the information that is required in Bali. So guys, that was it. I hope this was informative and you got as much information as possible. You could learn something and it's helping you in planning, or it will help you in planning depending on what you want to do. If you think there's something I missed out, you want to know more, please leave in the comments below and I will try and either reply to you, or if it's too elaborate, I'll try and do another video. This was just Bali. There are 5 other islands that I had visited. So if you want to hear about any of them, then you please let me know in the comments below and I'll do another video for it. Also, if there's anything specific you want to know about Bali, be it the food, be it any specific thing per se, or what places to visit in the north, south, east, west, and what I'd recommend, since I did go to a couple of them, then I will tell you my experiences and share that with you. Thank you so much for being a part of this vlog, for staying until now if you have. I will see you again next week on Wednesday. Until then, stay home, stay safe, and plan an exotic, wonderful, adventurous holiday, and may that dream come true. Bye bye.